Nabi. Welcome to another scene set in the Chronicles of Darkness, Vampire Requiem, Requiem for London. Tonight we set our scene with the ever-lovely Audrey, Nenet of the David clan, loyal member of the Carthian movement. Very literal homewrecker.
Wow.
And literally, not in the way people expect, as in physically.
Fair enough.
She punches real hard. Tonight, she is heading down to the borough of Haringi, or Haringi. On the outermost skirts of London. Although close to the inner city. There she has learned that is where she can find a certain kindred called Nenet. Perhaps for answers, perhaps for something else. You're muted.
I am. So you don't hear my furious typing as I take notes.
Ah.
Hashtag mechanical keyboard problems.
True.
Yep. Alright, so we're leaving the Maserati at home. Actually, we're leaving the Maserati at one of Foster's garages. Because I don't trust Ben. And yeah, we're gonna head on. Probably take a...
You're heading down to Highgate. Or the northern end of it. Rather, or rather, how to say, old-fashioned part of London. Lot of old 18th century buildings, gastropubs. And a rather large cemetery that is famous for being the resting place of Karl Marx, of all people. It's just a long... Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, were it that Audrey did not feel like she was being tailed after their discovery last night, she'd probably go and pay tribute. However.
It is along Highgate High Street that you find a local tattoo parlour that Nenet is said to operate out of. When you get there, parking probably just down the road, you find that it is still open despite how late it is at night.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Tattoo parlors are usually open pretty late. Even by mortal standards, but yeah. We're gonna go on in.
You head on in. First thing you notice is that the interior is quite dim. Much of the light is a faint ultraviolet. If you were a human, perhaps you'd squint your eyes a little bit. Most of the light is quite, how to say, focused. It doesn't radiate out much. Small candle lights and such. A sort of light a small portion of the room. It gives the parlour an almost haunted feeling. But there is someone being inked. Mortal. They have no predatory aura. But the person inking them is someone you very much recognize. Although she's wearing very different attire than what she was before. You actually get a much better view of her in her current clothing, without the hood draped over her. Short black hair with loose bangs. She has a wadjet over her eye. She's wearing a short sleeve turtleneck. You can see the tattoos on her arms. A snake spiraling down one side. On the other, an arc, and various hieroglyphics that you're sure mean something, but you are no Egyptologist.
Yeah. As soon as she gets in there, assuming that Nenet looks up at the presence of someone else entering with a predatory aura, she'll just kind of wave and like seat herself until she's done inking the mortal, because she doesn't want to fuck up whoever she's stabbing repeatedly. Audrey, also having lots of tattoos, knows exactly how that can go.
She doesn't look up to you, but she does smile. You enter. She finishes off a mortal. Model is shown his tattoo and seems quite happy. It seems to be a large lion's head on sort of the back of his right shoulder. And then she wishes him a good evening. And then he leaves. Leaving you two alone. She just smiles at you, look at you silently.
Well, it's a good thing that wasn't like a full sleeve or anything, otherwise we'd literally be here all night.
I work fast.
Audrey just kind of like nods her head like, yeah, okay.
It's a pleasure to have you in my parlour. Would you be interested in anything?
Well, you did say you wanted to talk, so she just kind of gestures. Here I am.
Of course. You can talk while you browse. There is literally like a whole booklet where you can go over the different like tattoos you can get here.
Audrey will just kind of like chuckle silently and go over to the book and start flipping through it. So, you seem to know a lot, especially about things that are probably gonna happen.
Some of my blood does. Some of my sect do. Same end, different means. Although it is our blood that has perhaps the greatest knack for it out of any other. Sometimes we don't even need a knack for it, sometimes we just know things. It can be difficult to tell when we will it and when we don't. But I suppose that's just a beast for you. It doesn't always ask for your permission.
Ain't that the fucking truth?
It always gets a little bit riled up when others of our kind walk into this place. Our territory and all that.
Yeah, that's understandable. I'm sure if someone were to walk into my apartment that I wouldn't take too kindly to it, though having a storefront kind of opens yourself up to that a little bit.
Well, I wouldn't be much of a kindred if I could never keep myself in check. There's a time and a place to self-indulge.
Yeah, speaking of keeping in check, that That frenzy in Elysium, huh?
Hmm.
That was rather interesting.
It was. The keeper is very good at keeping a handle on things. I'm impressed by her. I had always known she was more than just muscle, but her enchantments are perhaps as powerful as mine own. That is no little thing.
Wouldn't be much of a keeper if they couldn't keep the peace.
We have had those before. Sometimes those in power need to be given a bit of a push. Show the world if they are what they claim to be. I don't have much patience for fakes and frauds. I would go to the Sanctified for that.
Audrey just kind of like lets out a smirk. So why do you push those in power? I mean, like, I know Carthians, we push the status quo, but that's to make us better.
I believe you are right. I believe the Carthians and my what I am. I believe we strive for similar ends, but our reasons are different. You might wish to be careful, for Carthians are just as vulnerable as becoming as despotic as the Invictus. I've seen it before. They just do so in different ways.
No. Well, hopefully we can keep that from happening. And if the Invictus have anything to say about it, she just kind of trails off.
If there was any time for a dictatorship in the Carthians, it would likely be now. It would perhaps be the one time the Invictus wouldn't care.
Interestingly enough, we've set ourselves up in a position where that shouldn't happen.
Checks and balances.
They are important.
But then, if I do recall, the council isn't exactly an elected entity.
No, but we could always have a vote to remove someone out of power and put someone else that's better fit.
But would you be making that vote, or would the council?
I would assume it would be the Carthians as a whole. Majority rules.
I hope that is true. I would like to think that myself and the Carthians are of like minds. But we didn't come here to talk about that. Or you didn't come here to talk about that.
No, not necessarily. I am rather curious as to what you said to me at Elysium the other night.
I thought it was rather simple.
That I'm just gonna go around and destroying everything and you're gonna have fun watching.
Isn't that what you intend to do?
We're trying to rebuild everything. Tearing it down seems a little counterproductive.
One cannot build on top of everything. Sometimes a broken structure must be pulled down to make way for something new. The same philosophy both the crone and the movement take to their opponents. And eventually, the movement will have to do some tearing down if it wishes to remove the Invictus. But it's a fine balancing act. I find that you exist on one end of the tightrope, and your compatriot exists on the other.
Benji? I'm sorry, Counselor Smith.
Yes, Councillor Snitch. She smirks and just puts her hand over her lips. I mean Councillor Smith. I didn't expect him to keep it a secret, though it would have been appreciated.
Well, hopefully you guys worked out whatever you needed to.
He hasn't spoken to me. I wouldn't expect him to. But I have no interest in finding him. He did what he thought he had to do. I wonder how he'll react to me knowing.
Knowing what exactly? That you snitched? Or that he snitched?
I wonder if he thinks I'm angry.
Probably not. Though Counselor Smith is a little paranoid about everything.
He should be. He knows what might come jumping out of the shadows. You notice her snake's not here with her.
Yeah, I was about to actually ask about that.
But the Carthians fight for freedom, or rather, you fight for freedom.
Correct. You're suggesting that there are those that don't?
Yes and no. The Carthians have their ideals. But what the Carthians believe in can change depending on the Carthian. This is less true for the Invictus. But the Carthians embrace a more modern worldview. That variety aids them as much as it hurts them. I think it has done you wonders. You are what I would like to envision when looking at a curfew. I hope that doesn't sound too strange.
Well, the flattery is appreciated. It only gets you so far.
It does. I think it is because we are alike in some ways. I fight because it is not just right to do so, but because it is necessary. A world held in stasis is a very fragile thing, easily conquered and broken. A world in such a state would not be able to stand. It is difficult to explain.
Well, if you want, I'll put my best listening ears on. She, like, puts her hands up behind her ears, trying to be funny.
I suppose you could say it is like an iron grip on sand. Things slip through. Things you would be better off not seeing, but things I must nonetheless deal with. For the safety of all of us. But that requires me making some very difficult decisions sometimes. And then there is simply the fact that a world held in stasis is not one that is worth holding on to. A world that must be controlled, I do not believe, is worthy of existing. If that is truly the purpose of both kindred and kine, then it is a purpose that must be changed forcibly. I used to be more blunt about this, but now I find it harder to be so. Perhaps it's me just getting a bit older. Yep.
Alright, Chris, you
Well,
finished?
Yeah.
At least it's not Elder 3D chess.
Alright.
Don't forget to pay me.
I know.
Alright.
For dances, it is necessary. It keeps things interesting. It keeps things from growing too static. It is what keeps the kindred moving. Of course, sometimes you just need to fuck somebody up.
You almost sound like you have a particular target in mind.
I've had many targets over the years. I used to be more emotional about it, more vindictive. I realised that was pointless, eventually. It served nothing and no one. To be angry that the system is good. But I find letting it dictate one's actions misses the point. But it must be there. It's a good driving force.
And am I supposed to be this driving force for the Carthians?
No. You do what you do. It's simply that. You'll break things down because that's what you want to do. Whether the Carthians follow you or not, as I did, well, that is not something I saw. Perhaps they helped you. Perhaps they were behind it. But I can't say. All I know is that somebody's going to die somewhere.
Do you want to maybe give out a name?
I didn't have a name. If it were that simple, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
She just mutters under her breath, "Goddamn Maquette powers."
The lights have dimmed a bit further. Shadows have sort of encompassed them now. Your kindred senses still allow you to see perfectly, though. Did you know I'm an anarchist?
I could have kind of deduced that from our conversation.
Really, people seem to think I'm beholden to something else. I guess I am, but I'm not. When I follow somebody, it's because I want to.
So anarchy for anarchy's sake.
Oh, no. For the world's sake. And for our own. The world needs chaos. Can't exist without it. A world held in stasis is a world that is dead. People without wills are drones. Slaves. And a system that holds people down is one that doesn't deserve to continue. They call me and my people Sedites. Because of that philosophy, because we follow the incarnation of chaos. They call him Set, or the World Serpent. Freedom unbound. They think we're just some crazy cult.
And that's a dangerous mindset.
It definitely lends towards us being underestimated.
That's what makes it so dangerous.
They don't understand why we fight, why we act the way we do. In truth, a portion of it can never be understood. They don't see the things we do. I wouldn't want you to see those things either, unless you, of course, were willing. But not even all of us see those things, or face them. It is not the responsibility of every single one of us, just some of us. Most often those of my blood. She causes the shadows around the room to darken. You see the room becomes so dark that it becomes almost pitch black and even difficult for you to see. But you can still see Nenet faintly in front of you. She then brings that darkness in to her hand, like it's a very dense black ball. She sort of holds it like it's a stress ball. We're one of the few things that can fight them and scare them. She tosses you the ball.
Reflexively, Audrey's gonna catch it, if she can.
You do. It's solid. A solid shadow.
Audrey holds back the urge to throw it at the wall to see if it'll actually make a dent.
It melts between your fingertips and rejoins the corners of the room. They also make great parlour tricks.
Yeah, I could see that one being a showstopper at a birthday party.
Unfortunately, most uses for it this night are purely utilitarian. There isn't much artistry to it anymore.
That is unfortunate.
It's why I paint. It reminds me of... It makes me feel free, in a way.
I can probably understand where you're coming from on that one. So, enough beating around the bush, though. You seem to have a goal in mind, and I seem to be an instrument for this goal. So what is it that you want me to do?
And that depends on whether you want to do it.
Well, I can't sign the dotted line if I can't read the contract.
I can't give you a name. I don't know the name. In fact, it may not be a person at all. What I saw at the end of the trail was not a person. It's closer to a demon. But it didn't have claws, it had human-looking hands. Caked in black ink. But their face was that of a beast. A three-headed beast. I'm not sure what it meant, other than at some point you will face them, and you will serve the balance in some way or another.
I see.
I would like to help you see this done. Whatever you have been drawn into, or are soon to be drawn into, is no mild thread. No. There are many threats you're going to be drawn into. Beyond the demon, beyond the trail, I saw a tower. Do you know what the Rod of Asclepius is?
She's gonna look at Nenet like she grew another head.
It's also called a Cad of Chaos, a rod with snakes entwining it. It's a medical symbol.
That thing. Got it.
The tower was the staff, it stood defiantly above the demon. I wonder if a demon is here for a separate reason, or if it's misleading. I felt the shadow of a tower loom over us. The demon fell. In the end. But the shadow engulfed everything else. It's difficult to remember. Everything was so hazy. I said I walked along a trail, but it was more like I found myself on different parts of it. It's like everything was out of order. I don't think your journey has a set pattern. I think a lot of things have yet to be decided. But I know this Asclepius and this demon, they are at the end of them. Well, one follows the other. The tower's behind the demon. She tries to think on this, but she seems a bit stuck. You're also muted.
Yeah, sorry. How long ago was it that you saw all this?
Nights, not long, just prior to Elysium. It was well timed. It's always well timed.
Of course it is.
Would you... I wish to help you, but would you perchance be interested in helping me?
I don't see why not. If you're helping me along whatever, she just kind of gestures wildly in the air, whatever the fuck's about to happen, then I don't see why I can't help you.
There are some very questionable people in power. Keeping everything in place. I don't like it. They're causing everything to become stagnant and still. And they're breaking everything around them. I guess that doesn't really surprise you given your mindset, but... I was going to find them myself. Would you like to help me in shaking things up?
I don't see why not. But how high up the food chain are we talking here?
The matriarch of my own sect leads the city. I'm not foolish.
Fair enough.
It is not about toppling a skyscraper. It is about chipping away at the foundations. To let one small thing lead into the next. It's the core of Sadai philosophy. I guess you could call it the butterfly effect, but it's to allow one thing to lead into the other naturally. We just need to give the world the appropriate push. Contrary to popular belief, order is not the natural state of the world.
That makes sense. Looking at history, and she just kind of like goes on and on.
We just need to remind people of that.
Speaking of chipping away at things, weird question for you. Would you happen to know of any kind of blood sorcery that can control cars?
It could be done, but such technomantic ability is rare, to say the least. It's not the focus of the Crone, or any sect really. It would be a private pursuit. And it would be difficult.
How difficult are we talking? Like, millennia of study? Someone happened to bumblefuck their way into the ability?
An amateur could never possibly hope to pull it off. But someone of my ability might. It is an interesting idea, but then I don't really need magic to pull that off. I just need somebody's own shadow and they'll do it for me. It's more than likely something else. It's possible, true. If it is, it's likely a lone wolf. Why do you ask?
I came across some very interesting information, and she just kind of looks around the room, looks at her phone, turns off the phone, pulls out the Sims card. She's been hanging out with Ben too much. And then just looks at Nenet, kind of looking at her, expecting her to do the same thing.
She simply takes her phone and wraps it in a shadow.
Audrey
she then folds the shadow like an origami.
Audrey, seeing this very weird display of shadow magic, nods her head like, alright, I'll take it. And proceeds to tell her, so we're pretty sure the Invictus tried to screw over the race.
Of course they did. That's interesting. How underhanded of them. It's almost exactly like something I'd do.
Yeah, except for they use a spider instead of a snake.
Spiders. What do you mean?
Audrey will put the Sims card back in, turn back on the phone, and show her the image that Alley Cat drew in blood on her table.
Ah, the spiders. Now I understand. Well, your paranoia is suitably understandable. Well, suitably appropriate, you'll say. The links, they see everything like a web. They can go beyond the boundaries of our sight. And listen to the web itself, follow it. See where it leads. They can find the connections between everything. They could be looking at us right now. If they know what they're looking for. They're so in tune with the web that they could take your own powers for themselves if they truly wanted to. All they need to do is connect themselves to you. But they're young, and they haven't discovered that particular ability yet. I wonder if they could mimic my own abilities. That would be scary.
Indeed.
I wonder if that would mean that we're all actually links. If one of them assaulted the race, you're going to have a very difficult time proving that they were behind it. They're of my blood. Clan. My blood is different from theirs, quite different, but we are of the same clan. Which means Ben is of the same clan as well.
Yeah, we kind of got that when they straight up aspects the guy who was driving the car.
She sort of briefly brushes her bangs. Devious little thing. Well, I'm off half a mind to recruit him myself. It's a shame he's working against you. He'd probably make an effective Carthian.
Well, here's hoping we can get a turncoat.
Unfortunately, the Lynx are notoriously loyal to the Invictus. The Lynx obsess over structure and connections, and the Invictus provide that structure and those connections. It would be difficult for them to fit in with the movement, or with the cult of Set. Things are constantly changing, connected and disconnected, threads being torn away and woven into new shapes and forms. It must be terribly disorienting to one who sees it all so vividly. It would only be natural that they would seek stability.
Well,
You have no idea
sorry.
what I'm talking about, do you?
I might have an inkling.
Oh, I'm
But-
curious. Tell me.
Well, she's just kind of like, I mean, you just said you're an agent of chaos. If they're trying to study something like this web, if it's constantly being torn apart, then they wouldn't be able to really study it. Everything they studied up to that point could potentially be null and void, and it would drive them crazy.
Oh, the webs drive them crazy by default. I don't need to help with that. It is the nature of their blood. To be isolated, to be disconnected from everything. Yep.
I thought you finished.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you still talking?
Yeah, I know. To be disconnected from everything. Well, that would be intolerable to them. Unthinkable. How many times have you fed from the same mortals? Have you found that special one?
I usually try not to double dip, considering my hunting style.
How you would feel about them is how they feel about being together in general. To need to be with something or someone just for the sake of it. Because to be isolated is death to them. It's the worst thing they could imagine happening to themselves.
Interesting.
I wonder if they took something from the crash. If they did, they would likely know what's happening to it.
Villigus said there was nothing missing, at least not that he could notice.
But a lynx caused the crash. I did not know they could manipulate technology, but I suppose it makes sense. They've gone beyond the metaphysical and into the realm of the temporal, the literal. It's not just social networks they control now. I must say I'm rather proud of them in a way. They are not the little bloodline Martin created just a few decades ago. They're now a power in their own right. The world changes quickly in these nights, I suppose.
Sounds like the Industrial Revolution of bloodlines.
There's more where the links have come from. They're not the only ones of the blood that can do what they do. But I can't be giving away all my clan secrets now, can I?
Oh, come on, I've got to be able to taunt Benji with something. She just kind of gives her a cheeky smile.
Have I not given you enough of a show to toy him with?
Fair enough. But speaking of links, which link in the chain is it that you would like me to chip away at first?
I want to play a game with somebody. I want them to think they're being hunted when they're not. I want them to dig their own grave. Maybe we could meet again, and we could talk about it in a bit more detail. I think you'd find it enjoyable. I think fun is the more modern word.
I think you might be right.
Then I'll meet with you again, and we'll go have some fun together. There's more than enough people in London that need taking down a peg or two.
Just let me know when and where.
She'll unfold the shadow, take her phone out of it. She'll give you her number.
Audrey will save it and then afterwards turn back off the phone as she's traveling.
as when you go to leave, you'll find a little shadowy tendril on your shoulder, or it just sort of like wraps itself around your shoulder, almost like an arm, and will just politely guide you to the door.
Alright then.
And then it will open another tendril will emerge from another shadow adjacent to the door, open the door from you, and then close the door. And then it just flips the little open sign to closed. And I think that's a good place for us to end our scene.
Yep.
Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you all for watching. And we'll see you all next time. Bye bye.